Jayson Tatum spent 4 weeks over the summer in the gym with Paul Pierce, and that might be exactly what he needed. So this was the very first answer, actually, that Jayson Tatum gave in his media availability yesterday. And he said that Paul Pierce basically joined them for court work. And Paul Pierce himself, I guess, lost a little bit of weight in the process, but that they spent a lot of quality time, not just doing basketball work, but also focusing on some of the specific things that are necessary to win an NBA championship. Paul Pierce has given some, nuggets of wisdom from his time when he won the title in 2008. And the reason why I find this to be particularly encouraging is when I talked about the Jrue Holiday trade, if you guys remember, I said that I looked at it more as a defensive upgrade. And the reason why is when push comes to shove, it's got to be Tatum that out-executes Steph Curry in the NBA Finals, that out-executes Giannis in a conference finals, Dame in a conference finals, if they ran into a Jokic-led team. He has to be able to go toe-to-toe with the best guys in the league. And he had a little bit of a regression last year in some of his shot variety that made him easier to guard. And Paul Pierce was one of the best closers in NBA history because of that variety. He's a rise and fire guy who can rise and fire from any spot on the floor. And he had a specific combination of like crafty hesitation, pull-up dribble jump shots that I think would be good for Jayson Tatum to add to his repertoire. So the idea of him spending 4 weeks over the summer working in the gym with Paul Pierce is really encouraging to me because that's the one thing that's missing. Jayson Tatum is capable of being one of the best defensive players in the league. He is an outstanding rebounder for his position. He's put on muscle that's given him the versatility to bang with the bigger forwards and players that he has to go against in the NBA, right? He's become an outstanding shooter. He's an underrated passer. One of the biggest limitations in his game right now is he's a little predictable in a slow-down half-court setting, especially against a switching defense. He needs to have some of that shimmy, a little bit of that, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of that like shifty type of game where it's a little bit unpredictable, a little bit improvisational. Jaylen Brown's actually a little better than that, better at that than him right now. And so I think the idea of him working with Paul Pierce is a great sign from this past summer. All right, next mailbag question. This one's from Ryan. How much value do you see in the plus-minus stat on a standard stat sheet? I know you like to deep dive on stats, but I look at the standard stat sheet during and after games, and I always find it odd when I see a player who scored, say, 30 points and their team won, but they are -5 on the stats. Even though I know they needed their points to win, but technically they lost those minutes they were on the floor. So plus-minus is one of the most convoluted stats in basketball because there are tons of things that can poison the data, so to speak, right? Let's say, for instance, Nuggets fans going like, we always suck with Jeff Green on the floor last year. And it's like, yeah, but you were always terrible with Jokic on the bench in general. And and your offense falls apart, right? LeBron at center units for the Lakers. They got destroyed, but they didn't have a backup center. So like those units were not physically equipped to win basketball games. And they had to use them against really good playoff teams. And so LeBron's plus-minus was all messed up because he would just get his butt kicked in the bench group and then he'd come back and look great when he was playing alongside AD. You get the point. But like anytime I'm looking at any piece of data, I want to look at the bigger picture. Again, my whole thing with analytics is not it's useless. It's just another piece of data. And you should never watch the games without looking for the production that backs it up, and you should never look at the production without watching the games to see what happens. It's a symbiotic relationship between all those pieces. You can't just look at any one piece. You have to look at the full picture. I've said this before, but like even play type points per possession. Like, this player had a bad pick and roll points per possession. Okay, what was his spacing like? What was his roll man like? Like Damian Lillard was killing teams in pick and roll last year with poor spacing and bad roll men. Like I would imagine his points per possession in pick and roll is going to go up this year, playing alongside Giannis as a screen partner, right? So like, again, there's always context in stats. Plus minus, I think there's use in it. I try to look at it in a larger sample size, like in the whole season versus one game. But even then, lineup structure can have a lot to do with it. So we're going to look at that data. I'm going to present that data, but never just take it at face value. Always look at the bigger picture.